please subscribe and don't forget to press the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload a new video.
Well, back home on the Lal Street, major indices slipped close to around 1.5% in yesterday's trading session. They ended, in fact, at 2-month closing lows. The broader indices as well, that saw a sharper drop, ended down close to around 2%. But remember, in terms of the Nifty, over 80% of the Nifty fall yesterday was because of financials, with HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank as well, were the top losers in yesterday's trading session. If you pull up a contribution chart, that'll tell you the picture. Well, we spoke to a whole host of market experts on what they make of the market fall and what are the triggers going ahead. Let's hear out what they had to tell us.
We would have new names where money would start moving in, and then one would suddenly realize after a year or so that these are all sitters. So it's this process that the market goes through, and that is exactly what we are seeing now. Something that gets stretched beyond a point, it has to snap and correct, and then money has to move in somewhere else.
So typically when panic happens, it's very difficult to say where it's going to settle down. But still, according to us, possibly it will take another, Nifty can come down by another 150, 200 points, not impossible to imagine. But if you are a longer term investor and possibly ready to overcome the journey of those assembly elections, the central elections, and looking for 12 to 15 months, I think this certainly would be the time to buy at on a very selective basis, and maybe you can do a kind of an SIP in your investments spread over next 12 to 15 months.
I would say India is essentially caught in cross currents of a variety of global developments where, looking at stuff like trade frictions, which has been weighing on Asian equity markets quite a lot, hasn't really impacted India so much. So India, as a relative outperformer, was looking quite good until recently. The biggest near-term risk remains oil prices. And with what we are seeing in terms of the sanctions, the U.S. sanctions on Iranian oil being exported, if that really continues to tighten the oil markets as we expect, then we could easily see Brent oil going up to $90 a barrel in the near term.
Okay, that's all the opinion that we've got on the markets and the current situation. Anisha joins in to now get us all the cues and news overnight, which we need to watch for. Anisha?
Good morning, Ekta. Well, it looks like we're heading for a weak expiry this Thursday, given the fact that when we started off this series, the Nifty was hovering around that 11,670 mark, and we have lost around 700 points from that level. And in fact, most of that cut of around 500 points has come in the last 7 sessions itself. Yesterday as well, we plunged below the 11,000 mark on the Nifty. The Bank Nifty down about 600 points, and quite a bit of pressure coming from the mid-cap space as well, because that index was down about 500 points. As you mentioned, almost 80% of the cut that we saw in Nifty yesterday was on account of financials. For today as well, the macro cues overall look a bit bleak, but we might see a bit of bounce back given the huge cut that we have seen over the last couple of days. Now, in terms of the major cue to watch out for, Brent, as you guys have been talking about, saw an overnight move of around 3%. It is currently hovering around that $81.3 per barrel mark on account of the statements coming in from OPEC that they're not looking to increase the production in the near term, as well as the demand is expected to go up. And given the impending Iran sanctions looming on us, expected rate for the Brent is just on the higher side. Other than that, add to that the rupee weakness, because yesterday the rupee ended at around 72.63 level, and overall the rupee weakness seems to have been coming back. And other than that, the global cues are also weak, because from the mother market, the US markets closed in the red. The Dow was around 185 points lower. There, the political uncertainty ahead of the midterm elections in November and the trade tensions are really spooking the investors. There were also reports suggesting that the US Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein was on the verge of resigning or being fired, and there's a meeting that is scheduled between the President Donald Trump and the US Deputy Attorney General for Thursday. So let's see what comes out of that one. But the overall administrative setback is spooking the markets there. Other than that, the FOMC policy meet, which is expected to start today, wherein most of the street is expecting a rate hike, is also something to watch out for. Separately, Europe closed in the red, and as far as the Asian markets are concerned this morning, Hong Kong and The South Korean markets are shut, but other than that, the other markets are trading on the flattish line. A tad bit of mixed reactions, what we are seeing across Asia. HDFC Nifty for starters is suggesting to start around that 11,000 mark, but will be interesting to see if we see any buying come in at the lower levels or not. Because, for example, yesterday we saw DIS pitching in money because they bought around 1,500 crores in the cash equity markets, while the FII sold, they sold around 500 crore rupees. Let's see how today pans out.
All right, Nisha, I'm a little worried actually because those DIs, they're doing their bit now. They're pumping in so much of money. What if they decide, hey, I'm not going to be putting in that money? Then it wouldn't be very, very great for us. But you've given us the entire trade setup. What about stocks we should be looking at?
Well, all these oil dependents as well as rupee and bond dependents, because they are seeing a lot of volatile moves, so keep an eye out on that. Other than that, the finance minister is going to meet the heads of the public sector banks today. So let's see if anything important comes out of that, because as we have been talking about, financials have been the real pain point for the markets currently. Other than that, of course, Yes Bank would be in focus. Remember, there's a board meet today wherein they will consider the name of the new CEO. Separately, some statements came out from Yes Bank yesterday that they maintain their credit cost guidance for FY19, as well as that the MD and CEO will be fully guided by the board of directors, RBI and other stakeholders. Let's see whether the recovery that we have been seeing in Yes Bank continues today or not. Infosys got an order worth around 80 million currencies, and that is what we are looking for from Government of Canada. So that is something to watch out for. Dilip Bilkon has been declared the lowest bidder for a new EPC project worth around 600 odd crores. So a green tick on that perhaps. ILFS continues to be in focus. Now ILFS Financial Services had informed exchanges that commercial papers that were due yesterday, they were not able to meet that obligation, and the fact is that they won't be able to access the commercial paper market for the next 6 months. IndusInd Bank on a similar matter says that the ILFS securities transaction that they had taken up is going as scheduled. It is a bit delayed, but nonetheless it is continuing as earlier decided. Separately, SIDBI may take ILFS to NCLT, so a lot of moving parts when it comes to the ILFS group, so we'll watch out for that. SBI Life Insurance might be in focus because BNP Paribas Cardiff has informed them they might be looking at reducing their stake in the company on account of meeting the minimum requirements. Mangalam Drug and Organics has received a final approval from WHO, so that will be in focus. AdLabs Entertainment is looking to develop and operate a new entertainment park in Andhra Pradesh, so expanding opportunity for that company. Bakrangri Limited, where there were some reports suggesting that the Ministry of Corporate Affairs is looking into the company's book. They have clarified that they have heard nothing from the ministry. Let's see whether that is able to assuage investor concerns or not. Zensar Tech, they have announced launch of some insurance modules for the company, so that will be a positive. And a lot of reports this morning, I'll just quickly run you through them. General Motors is in talks with JSW to sell their Pune car plant for around 3,500 odd crores. Augurs well given the JSW Energy's plan for EV business. Amcor and Huhtamaki are in talks to acquire SL Propack, so keep an eye out on that. Aban Offshores has hired Deloitte to draw up a resolution plan, and TCS might see a sentiment downtick because 3 US citizens have decided to sue the company for bias on race and origin. And lastly, Prestige Estates and Nirmal are in talks to develop the Mulund land, so that'll be in focus as well. Back to you.
Okay, all right, Anisha, thanks very much. Well, the rupee continues to remain weak, ending at 72.63 against the dollar in yesterday's trade. And in a bid to stem the fall in the rupee and rein in the current account deficit, the government is in fact close to finalizing the list of commodities that will attract a higher import duty. Sources tell us that non-tariff restrictions may not be on the table at the moment. So what could attract higher tariffs? Precious stones, certain types of steel and electronic goods are all candidates. And sources also tell us that further import curbs on gold, however, is unlikely.
All right, Len, let's focus on a few stocks. The hunt for the new CEO will be the top focus at Yes Bank's board meet scheduled later today. This after the Reserve Bank of India curtailed the tenure of Yes Bank's current MD and CEO, Mr. Rana Kapoor, to the 31st of January 2019. Ritu Singh is here with all those exclusive details. Ritu, a couple of questions to you. Who are the possible candidates? And also, what will Mr. Rana Kapoor's role be post the 31st of January?
Two key items will be on top of the agenda of the board members of Yes Bank as they are set to meet to decide the future course of action. One is the appointment of a new MD and CEO as Rana Kapoor steps down by the end of January next year. Here we understand that a search committee will be appointed and they will look at both internal and external candidates. Rajat Mongawa and Pralay Mondal are among the strongest contenders internally. Externally, of course, also the search committee could look for more candidates to bring in more credibility to the bank. But that aside, the final stamp of approval lies with the Reserve Bank of India when it comes to the selection of the CEO. The bank can merely make recommendations. The second and the more complicated matter is that of Rana Kapoor's future role in the bank. Currently, by virtue of being the MD and CEO of the company, he is also a whole-time director. But the legal opinion is that by giving up that position, he also gives up his position on the board of the bank. But do remember, the articles of association of Yes Bank do say that Rana Kapoor, by virtue of being an Indian partner, is not liable to retire by rotation. But there is a conflicting view in the Banking Regulation Act which says, if a whole-time member relinquishes his position, he's also not liable to be a director on the board of the bank. So, which way, the board opinion swings or what Rana Kapoor is likely to do, as further recourse to this, it remains to be seen. But it is, widely expected that this could end up in the courtroom.
Okay, all right, Ritu. Thanks very much for that. But moving on, the Finance Minister will also hold a day-long meeting with the top PSB chiefs and executives of the PSU banks today. Sapna Das joins in on the phone line with details on what exactly is on the agenda. Sapna?
Hi, so basically this is the annual performance review that the Finance Minister will hold with the PSB chiefs. Of course, so to speak, that this is the first meeting after the bank merger was announced last Monday. But having said that, the usual thing on the agenda, but a lot of focus will be on, in terms of discussion on the pace of recovery, how recoveries have happened, what is the road forward for that. The government has been very keen to put out various kinds of numbers that, Q1, this is the maths, Q2, this is the maths, and, how does this financial year look like, because consolidation is definitely on the minds of the government. One, they have already announced. So recovery would be one. That's one key focus. Of course, bank performance in terms of their credit growth. What are the statements that are going to be there for the rest of the financial year, the parameters they have to meet. That's going to be second. And the usual stuff otherwise, like priority sector lending and financial inclusion, a big discussion on that. Also, they are calling ministries like MSME and urban affairs, housing and urban affairs, basically to discuss the home loans also. I suppose this will be again from the priority sector point of view. The other thing also is that in the evening, the Finance Minister will be holding a press conference after the meeting of the banks, and there will be presentations on some new initiatives also. So the last time this happened was when the bank merger was announced on Monday. Presentations on new initiatives. So we really don't know what that may be, but this is how it looks like. Normal agenda, but wait for the evening when the essence speaks.